Nobody is making home decor like this with crochet. And once you see what's possible with just a hook and some yarn, you're going to want to clear your whole weekend. I've been crocheting for years, and I still get surprised sometimes. You think you know what crochet can do. You picture beanies, scarves, maybe a granny square blanket thrown over a couch. But then you come across a pattern that makes you stop and just stare at it. Like, did someone really make that by hand? That's what this video is about. We're going to go deep into one of the most creative, most satisfying crochet home decor patterns I've ever come across. And by the end of this, you'll have everything you need to make it yourself. Let me be real with you for a second. A lot of people get into crochet and they stay in the same zone forever. They do the same basic stitches, the same basic shapes, and then they wonder why it starts to feel boring after a while. The thing is, it's not that crochet gets boring, it's that they never pushed past the beginner stuff. And that's not their fault. Most tutorials online keep things super simple because they're scared of losing people. But here's what happens when you stay in that zone. You never get to experience the part of crochet that's actually addictive, the part where you look at what you just made and you genuinely cannot believe your own hands did that. This pattern is exactly that kind of project. So what are we actually making? We're making a wall hanging, but not just any wall hanging. This is a structured, layered, textured piece that combines multiple techniques in a way that looks almost architectural. Think of it like a fiber art sculpture that hangs on your wall. It has depth, it has movement, it has this really satisfying mix of open lace sections and dense, solid areas that create contrast. When light hits it, the shadows change throughout the day, so it genuinely looks different depending on when you look at it. People are going to walk into your home and ask where you bought it, and you're going to get to say, you made it. Before we get into the how, let's talk about why this pattern stands out from the hundreds of other crochet home decor patterns floating around out there. Most crochet wall hangings follow a pretty predictable formula. You start at the top, work your way down in rows, add some fringe at the bottom, and call it done, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this pattern breaks that formula in a few really interesting ways. First, it uses a combination of working flat and working in the round, sometimes within the same section. That's not something you see often, and it's what gives the piece that almost three-dimensional quality. Second, the color transitions in this pattern are not your standard stripe situation. Instead of switching colors in clean, horizontal bands, the color changes happen in a more organic, gradient-style way that creates the soft, flowing look. It takes a tiny bit more planning, but it's not complicated once you understand the logic behind it. Third, and this is my favorite part, the pattern uses a series of overlapping motifs in one section, small individual pieces that you work separately and then attach as you go. Each motif on its own looks like nothing special, but once they start coming together on the main piece, the effect is genuinely stunning. Now let's talk about what you need to get started. For this project, you want to use a medium weight yarn, which is also called worsted weight or size 4 yarn. You don't need anything expensive. Honestly, a basic acrylic yarn works great for this because it holds its shape really well and it's easy to wash. If you want a more organic, natural look, a cotton or cotton blend yarn is beautiful for wall hangings too. The colors are completely up to you. This is your piece and your home. But if you want a tip, high contrast color combinations tend to look the most dramatic. Think deep navy with cream, or terracotta with off-white, or forest green with a warm tan. Earthy tones are really popular right now, and they look amazing in this style. You'll also need a size 5mm hook, which is the standard recommendation for worsted weight yarn. Some people prefer to go up half a size when doing textured work because it keeps things from getting too tight and stiff, but that's personal preference. A wooden dowel for hanging, about 12 to 14 inches wide, depending on how big you want the finished piece to be, and a yarn needle for weaving in ends because, yes, there will be ends to weave in. Let's talk about the skills this pattern uses because I want you to know exactly what you're getting into. If you can do a basic chain stitch, a single crochet, and a double crochet, you have the foundation you need. This pattern does introduce a few stitches that might be new to you if you're still in the early stages, but none of them are difficult. They just need a little practice before they click. The main ones are the bobble stitch, which creates those satisfying little puffy bumps of texture, The shell stitch, which makes those fan-shaped sections that add the lacy open areas, and the surface slip stitch, which you use at the end to add decorative lines on top of finished sections. Each of these has been around forever, they're well documented, and if you get stuck on any of them, there are tons of individual tutorials available. But I'll walk you through the key moments in each one as we go. The starting chain for this piece is 47 chains. That gives you enough width to create a wall hanging that looks substantial without being overwhelming. Once you have your starting chain, you're going to work the first section in rows. This section is the background layer, and it's worked in a simple but rhythmic stitch pattern that creates a nice tight fabric with a subtle texture. It's not plain, even the background has character, but it's calm enough to let the motifs in the middle section really pop. Here's where a lot of first-time wall hanging makers go wrong. They work the background section, and then they try to rush into the decorative parts without giving the background enough rows. The background needs to breathe. It needs room to be itself. Go too short on it, and the whole piece ends up looking cramped. You want to do about 16 rows for the background section before you move into the transition area. The transition area is one of my favorite parts to explain because it's where the pattern gets clever. Instead of just stopping the background and starting something new, there's a bridge section of about 4 rows that gradually shifts the stitch pattern. In these rows, you're going to start introducing the shell stitch in small doses, just a couple of shells per row at first, with the surrounding stitches staying mostly the same. By the last row of the transition, you're almost fully into the shell stitch. It's a really smooth and professional-looking shift that makes the whole piece feel like it was designed rather than just assembled. Once you're through the transition, you enter the main decorative section. This is where the magic is. The shell stitch takes over and creates these beautiful cascading fan shapes across the width of the piece. But here's the thing, you're not just doing plain shells. At certain points in the pattern, you're going to drop down a shell stitch to create an elongated version that reaches into the row below. This is called a spike shell, and it adds this really dramatic vertical element that breaks up the horizontal flow. It sounds complicated, but once you try it a couple of times, it becomes totally intuitive. This is also where the bobble stitches come in. Between every second shell, you're going to place a bobble stitch, just one per gap, that's it. And it makes such a difference. The bobbles sit forward while the shells lay back, so you get this gentle relief texture that catches the light in the nicest way. Now let's talk about the individual motifs, because this is the part that sets this pattern apart from everything else. While you're working the main body of the piece, or actually it's more practical to do this ahead of time, you're also going to make 12 small circular motifs separately. Each one starts with a magic ring, goes through 4 rounds, and finishes at about 2.5 inches in diameter. They look like little flowers or medallions. And once your main piece is done, you attach them in a cluster pattern right in the center third of the wall hanging. Some overlap slightly, some have small gaps between them, and the arrangement is intentional, but it shouldn't look too perfect. Slightly irregular placements actually look more natural and handmade in the best way. To attach them, you use the surface slip stitch I mentioned earlier. You're essentially crocheting on top of your finished fabric to secure each motif. This technique is also what you use to add the decorative line details, thin lines that trace along certain stitch ridges and make the structure of the pattern more visible. It's a finishing technique, but it dramatically changes the look of the piece. Without it, the wall hanging is nice. With it, it looks like something from a boutique. The bottom of the piece has a fringe section, but again, not your average fringe. Instead of cutting individual strands and folding them through the edge, this pattern uses a looped fringe method. You crochet the fringe directly onto the bottom edge in the last row, making long chains that loop down and back up and get anchored into the same edge stitch. The result is a fuller, more structured fringe that doesn't tangle as easily and keeps its shape better over time. The loops range in length, so you get a layered, graduated fringe effect that adds a lot of movement to the bottom of the piece. Once everything's assembled, the last step is blocking. A lot of crochet beginners skip blocking and then wonder why their finished pieces look a little uneven or bunched up. Blocking is just the process of wetting your finished piece, gently shaping it the way you want it, and letting it dry flat. For a wall hanging, this is especially important because you want the whole thing to hang straight and the stitch patterns to open up and show themselves properly. Give it a good soak in cool water, squeeze out the excess gently without twisting, pin it out on a blocking mat or a towel on the floor, and let it dry completely before you hang it. It usually takes overnight. You'll be amazed at the difference. For hanging, just slide your wooden dowel through the top edge. The pattern builds in a channel at the top specifically for this, a simple row of chain spaces that the dowel threads through easily. Then tie a piece of yarn to both ends of the dowel for hanging, and you're done. The whole project, if you're working at a comfortable pace and you're already familiar with the basic stitches, takes most people about 8 to 12 hours, spread across a few days. If you're newer to some of the techniques and you take your time learning them as you go, maybe a bit more. But every hour of it is genuinely enjoyable because you can see the piece growing and becoming something more interesting with each session. Here's the thing about making your own home decor versus buying it. There's a moment when you hang something you made yourself on your wall and step back to look at it. And it's different from any other feeling. You know every stitch. You remember when you figured out the spike shell or when the motifs started coming together and you could finally see what the finished piece was going to look like. That's yours. Nobody else has one exactly like it. And every person who comes into your space and notices it gets to hear that story. That's what this pattern gives you. Not just a finished object, but a process that's actually worth your time and a result that you're going to be proud of for a long time. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next crochet project.